Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. I am your host, Andrea Miller, and I'm so excited to bring this show to you. Show Me the Way is a podcast dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. On today's episode, I had the privilege of interviewing my mom once again. She was on the show previously when I did a special Mother's Day episode with her, my mother-in-law, and my two sisters. But ever since then, I've wanted to have her back. She's often told me she isn't sure what she would talk about, or she doesn't know if she has a story, but everyone has a story, as I always say. And many of my listeners have heard me talk about her recent move with my dad to North Carolina. So I encouraged her to speak about several of the moves that she has had and how it altered the course of her and my dad's life. And she really reminded me how it affected my sisters and my life and how decisions that we make do affect other people's lives. She also spent a couple of minutes having a memory about hearing of Nathan's diagnosis and how that has stuck with her to this day, but what kind of perspective that gave her as well. It was great having a conversation with her. I loved the laughs. We got emotional, and I know you will all learn something like I did. Welcome back to the Show Me the Way podcast. So, I have a very, very special guest today, somebody that has been on the show a little bit before, but not in her very own episode. So, I'm very excited to welcome my mom, Christine Fusco, back to today's episode. And, it's funny because she's been on the earth a little while and she says, I don't know what I would talk about, but she has all kinds of things that I'm sure she could talk about. I mean, everybody has a story, like I always say. And I'm really excited. The last time I had her on was when I did a special Mother's Day episode with her and my mother-in-law and my two sisters. And afterwards, my sisters and I just said, Mom is a natural, which doesn't surprise me because she is not a stranger to the stage or to speaking. She was a teacher for many, many years. She was in theater, so she's very comfortable speaking. So I didn't think she would have a problem. But yeah, afterwards I thought, geez, we could have our own podcast, just my mom and me. The two of us love to talk. We have been known to be on road trips and completely miss our exit because we're chatting away. If we get on the phone, neither of us really like to be on the phone, but when we're on the phone together, we can talk for an hour before you know it. So I just knew that she would be a great guest. And I do have a few guests coming up. People in the summer months are just busy with vacations and all kinds of things. So a lot of guests are kind of scheduling weeks out. And I had an opening and I really wanted my mom to be on again. So I convinced her to do it this morning. And I'm really excited to have you here. So thanks for jumping in as a guest and being on the podcast again, Mom.
Thanks for asking.
Of course. So I could go on and on about you. Obviously, I've known you my whole life, but I'll give you a couple of minutes to tell our listeners maybe a little bit about you.
Okay, as everybody knows, you're my daughter, and I've been married to my husband for it'll be 54 years come August. And we met in high school band. He played saxophone and I played French horn. And then we went through college, of course, and then got married. Had three beautiful, intelligent daughters
Yes.
who we, who we are very proud of. They've all been on their own paths as well. And I have to say, generally speaking, I've had a very good life. My husband took very good care of me, and my girls have always been there for me if needed. And we've got 6 grandchildren, and we are going to welcome our first great granddaughter in August. So we're very excited about that in Michigan. That's pretty much it. Nothing real exciting. I've had a generally good life and some ups and downs, as everybody has. But I think whenever we go through life and have ups and downs, the good and the bad all shape us into our personality that we are. a lot of times too, the choices we make are because of our personalities. So I think it's like the circle of life. We learn and we make choices, but we make choices because we've learned, possibly. So that's my story.
I love that. That's a really good way of looking at it. I don't know that I've ever really thought about it that way, but that's very true. And actually it goes along with how you've raised us because you've always said there's consequences, or if you decide to do this, it'll turn into that. And that's definitely something that I live by. So that was a good little quote there. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that we're going to have a little baby in the family coming soon. That's really exciting. Yeah, you said nothing exciting, but you really you have had you guys have had an exciting life. You've certainly taken a lot of trips and you've moved a lot of places. And yeah, just like I said, everybody has a story. You could talk about. I could pick any topic, and you could probably spend an hour talking about it and teaching us some things. So
Yeah, and
thank
can
you.
I say, can I interrupt
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the traveling because I had that down that I was going to talk about that in my intro here, and I forgot. We've traveled a lot. We've taken train trips out west, which have been awesome, and we've been to Italy and Greece last year, and then next May, I think it is, we are going on a pilgrimage to Spain. So yeah, we enjoy traveling, and thank God we're still able to do that.
Yeah, you're not afraid of
No,
taking trips, that's for
no.
sure. Yeah, I love that. I've been talking about that with my friends quite a bit. Like my parents have gone everywhere, and that's when you do it, I guess. When you're a little older, you've got the time and you have the money. That's when you go on these trips. So we all have that to look forward to, maybe. Yeah, so many of my listeners know, and my mom has listened. She and my dad are very supportive and have listened to. Anytime I send them a link of an episode, they listen. They're in the car quite a bit. They don't live in Michigan where I live, so they come to visit. And when this little baby comes, they'll be visiting more. And so there's always time in the car, and I'll say, "Listen to this podcast episode," and they've been very supportive. So they know that I started it because, again, my mom knows that I love to talk, but when my second son was 5 years old, he was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is a muscle wasting progressive disease. And it rocked our world. I had never really heard of it. I heard of muscular dystrophy, but really didn't know what that meant. And we haven't had anything like that in our family. So it was new, and navigating medical visits and insurance and all of that stuff was just a new path for me, and it wasn't one that we expected to be on, my husband and me. We have an older son who had a ball being kicked around the house before he was even a year old. So we just figured we'd have two very active children and things would be pretty much the same. And they weren't. We found out that were going to be different than we expected. The path was going to look different. We had to make different choices. Maybe we moved to a more open house because of it. There's a lot of decisions that we made based on this new normal, as they say. And I just wanted to be able to share that story because facing adversity like that really does change your thought process and your perspective and how you look at life. And I always talk about living more in the present now because of him. When people say, "What's your 5 and 10 year plan?" I just laugh. It's more of a, "What's your 5 day plan or 5 week plan?" My son, Nathan, he is going to be a senior in high school this fall. And everyone keeps asking us, "What are you doing after?" Okay, I have no idea. I don't even know what October or November are going to bring. Stop talking to me about June in 2027. I'm just not ready for any of that. We really live in the moment. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring. And so that's kind of how we live, and that's what my son has taught me. So I wanted to share our perspective, our story, and then create a platform where others could do the same. And sometimes it's big adverse events similar to ours where one day you got a diagnosis and your life completely changed. But sometimes it's like I've been through all kinds of different changes and different pivots, and here's what they look like, and here's what I've learned. So that's kind of what I told my mom when she was like, "What am I going to talk about?" I'm like, "Well, you can certainly teach us a lot of things based on, I mean, even we could even dedicate an episode to all the traveling." She says they're still able to do it, but my dad does have some physical challenges. So my mom has to, carry heavier bags than maybe she expected to carry, or they have to make alternate routes so that it's easier for him to see all of these sites and to experience all of this. So, you could even talk about some of those challenges and how you overcome them and what that looks like. So there's just all kinds of things that people could talk about. I kind of mentioned to her that she could talk a lot about moving, which we'll get into. But yeah, I've had people talk about grief. I've had people talk about changing jobs, just any time that they had a plan and it kind of changed. I'll be interested to talk to my niece because Jordan, she's been on here before, but after she has a baby, because a lot of times when we're expecting a child, we have a plan and it doesn't often go exactly the way we expect it. Sometimes it does, but that really alters your line of thinking as well. So it's been very fun and very much a learning experience for me to do this podcast with everybody. I've had a lot of guests. I've had people I've never met before. I've had my family, I've had friends, and I really do think that even when people have been on before, they have more to say. So I'm going to stop talking now and just again say I'm really happy that my mom is here. Like I said, she's just really good at these types of things. And I'm going to put her on the spot. Usually I say there's no script, just speak on what's on your heart. But I did kind of tell her that I would kind of prompt and we could talk a lot about moves. So that's something we could start with. Yeah, we lived in Michigan. They grew up in Michigan, both my mom and my dad, and that's how they met. And I have since stayed here, and I'm the only one of our Fab Five, our core family with my parents and my two sisters. I'm the only one who has never left this beautiful state. Now, both of my sisters live in different states, and my parents just moved. For how many times did we say you've moved?
10.
10 times. So they moved for the 10th time. And some people might say, whoa, that's crazy. But on the other hand, they've certainly experienced quite a bit of things and they've gotten used to letting go of things and starting over and redecorating and having these projects. And so I give them a lot of credit. You've heard me talk about it on the show a couple of times. Oh my gosh, they're moving. Why are they doing this? But I really do understand why. And I kind of am inspired and I respect them for saying, why not? Why not? Life is short. So I completely agree with that. I mean, you don't know what next year is going to look like. So why not go after it? What are you waiting for? And they just had some new ideas and they wanted to move to a different state. So they now live in North Carolina and we don't have family there. They don't have friends. They're kind of starting over, but they seem to be doing good so far. They're a little closer to us. So a few people have referred to them as halfbacks because they lived in Florida for a little while. And now that maybe they're coming closer to Michigan, which is nice. We do see each other a little bit. I wish my mom and dad lived next door to me, but you can't always have it that way. And you just have to understand how to communicate, how to make trips, make time for each other when you can. And that's what we do. So, yeah, I guess we can start with that. You lived in Michigan, then you moved to Florida, and now you're in North Carolina. So, I don't know which direction you want to go in, but you could talk about moving if
Okay.
that suits you.
All right. Actually, we lived in Michigan, for, gosh, I'm going to think all our lives. And then we, in 1999, my husband got notified that he was going to be transferred to Ohio. So we weren't really expecting that. We were probably expecting to stay in Michigan all our lives as well. So, but we looked at it as something we were told we had to do at the time and a new adventure. But and it wasn't bad. His company moved us and we moved down to a little college town, Ada, which is outside of Lima. Very quaint little town. Very nice. We had a beautiful home. We took our youngest daughter with us. However, she stayed in Michigan until June. We moved in May, I think it was, and she stayed to graduate. His company allowed us to at least stay there in Michigan until she graduated from high school. And we offered for Andrea to come down because, poor thing, we had to kick her out because she was still living at home. And it was like, okay, Ann, we're moving. I don't know what you're going to do. But she found someone that she could get an apartment with. She was working and I think she was dating Ryan. So she really didn't want to come to Ohio with us. So she ended up staying in Michigan, which is fine. So we moved to Ohio, and our youngest daughter had a boyfriend, of course, in Michigan. She had graduated. And at the time, I think they both thought this long distance was going to work, but it didn't. And so they ended up breaking up, and she met her future husband in college down in Ohio. And they got married, and it was nice. But looking back, here's the thing. I'm the kind of person that when something happens in my life, I might reflect back and see what it caused, and I'm not one of these to say there's a reason for things. I believe in fate and destiny, and the reason, and maybe that's just a different word to use, but I can't in my mind, reason why young children get cancer and die. There's no reason for that. To me, it's just that was their fate. It was their destiny, unfortunately. That's just an example. So I don't really feel there was a reason for us moving, even though it caused our daughter, for example, to break up with her boyfriend and then meet someone new. You could say that's why she moved down there. I just feel that that was meant to be. It was her fate, destiny. And where we moved was very nice, quaint little town, Ada. But we did leave everything. We left all of our family. Both our parents were still alive. We left our children. We left our friends. Now, when you move to another state, yes, you can have new opportunities. I mean, I had a couple of jobs I got. We made friends, I'll say, but they aren't really friends. They're acquaintances because they're not the people that you met while your kids were in, let's say, volleyball together or basketball or went to high school together. Those become your friends, those parents. And then you do stuff with them. But that's okay. So we really never, and moving into a small town, let me say, we realized if you're an outsider, it's hard to get in. Even though everybody was very kind, it was a nice place to live, but people that were raised there all their lives, they don't move out. They usually stay in that small town, and now you're the outsider coming in. It's difficult. So we really didn't ever connect into anything. We were there for 5 years, but again, everybody was very kind to us. It was a nice place to live. So in the meantime, our daughter, our youngest, got married while we were down there. And about a week before she got married, we found out we were being transferred back to Michigan, which we were thrilled about. But now we have Tony is in Ohio, and she cried when we moved down there and took her, and now we're going to be leaving her. So we had to keep that secret because we didn't want to ruin her wedding and everything. And so she went on her honeymoon, and then when she came back, we dropped the bomb, literally, and said, we're moving back. And she was crying again. So I think the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think that really did affect her in many ways, because she really didn't have a lot of good friends, and she was just newly married, new life, and now we're leaving her. In the meantime, her husband, who was going into criminology, decided, thanks to Tony, he was a policeman in Cridersville, which is a very, very small town. Great. I mean, he's a policeman, but she thought that he could do something better, and she wanted him to become a state trooper in Ohio, which is very highly regarded. So he did that, but he had to go away for weeks at a time to Columbus to take the training. And so now we've left. He's gone. She's home by herself, and she was unhappy. And God bless her husband, because he was one of the few that ended up graduating, and now he's a state trooper. Again, I don't believe there's a reason that she met him. I think it was fate. Because of her, he bettered himself, and that's a good thing then. Also, when we were in Ohio, it prompted my husband and I to start thinking about where we were going to retire, because we knew we weren't going to stay in Ohio when he retired. But do we want to go back to Michigan where the winters are real bad? No. So we thought that's when we made our decision that we were going to retire in Florida, because we thought we were going to be in Ohio until he retired. Well, again, we were only in Ohio 5 years, and they offered him a position back in Michigan. So we ended up back in Michigan, which we were happy about. But now we've left our daughter, our youngest, down there by herself. So we ended up, it was interesting because we realized, of course, and we look back now, the move broke up our family. My husband's from an Italian family, and we were used to having all the events together and being able to see each other. The good thing about living in Ohio was when holidays came along and my kids came down to visit, they would stay for a weekend instead of just like an hour or whatever and then go back home. So that was always nice. I loved when everybody came down. So now my husband had decided he likes to cook. He took culinary arts in college, and he thought, when we go back to Michigan, I'm going to cook every Sunday, and I'm going to just say whoever wants to come can come. And so that's what we did. Well, a lot of times, of course, everybody was busy. or one daughter would show up and the others had, okay, soccer games, volleyball games, what have you, or they're just busy doing stuff around the house and they don't want to have to come for dinner. So then that was the other side of what we looked at in our lives. Because we want to have the family together and have dinner every Sunday, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Not because they don't want to come, but your kids grow up and have their lives and with their children, and that's normal. So that happened for a while, not long, and then pretty soon it was like, well, forget it. They're doing their own thing, they're busy. Okay. So we ended up staying in Michigan for, I can't remember how long. We moved there in 2000. I have to back up. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
This was another thing that affected our move. So when we moved back to Michigan, he had to start work in Michigan in 2004, but we were building a house and it wouldn't be ready till 2005. So we had to stay in an apartment. Okay. And again, this has become my famous, I still use it today. That's okay. It's okay. You just keep saying that because you can figure things out then. All right. So we moved to an apartment. All our stuff was in storage, but of course we took a few things with us. And I had decided, thinking it would be safer, to take all my jewelry with me instead of having it on the moving van. Okay. So now we're in this apartment and I had a problem with, you had to use a code or a key, I think it was, use our key to get into the lobby, and then use my key, of course, to get in my apartment. It had a deadbolt and a regular lock. Well, it just so happened these were new apartments and my deadbolt was difficult. It would stick a lot and everything. So I quit using that. Don't ever quit using your deadlock. Words of wisdom. So I was at work one day and came home and I'm walking around that and I looked in the bedroom and my jewelry box, it's one of those that has the legs on it and everything stands up. And all the drawers were pulled out and on my bed, flipped upside down. And at first I had to stop and think, and I thought, was my granddaughter over here playing? And she was looking at my jewelry? No. I thought she wouldn't have left it like that anyway. And then it was a light bulb hit me, ding, ding, ding. And I screamed at my husband. I said, we've been robbed. So, of course, that was horrific because, to backtrack a little, my husband every Christmas would buy me beautiful, expensive jewelry. And the girls would always say, what'd Dad get you this year? Beautiful rings and necklaces and all that. And that was gone. All that was gone. And it broke my heart. So, of course, we called the police. They came, of course, nothing. What are they going to do? We described the jewelry to them. And we kept thinking, how did somebody get in here? We couldn't figure it out. And we thought, well, you have to use the key to get in here. So we assumed it was someone in our apartment building. So the police, of course, are asking, well, who's been here to visit? And we hadn't had anyone except our very good friends and our kids. Okay, well, we'll, try to find the jewelry, blah, blah, blah. They told us to go to pawn shops and all that kind of thing. Well, a week later, for some reason, it came to me that a week before the robbery, the management, we had come home from work and there was a note on our table and it said, it was from the management and it said, we came in today and had peepholes drilled in your doors, which I found out later I should have done more because they're not to come in unless they tell you ahead of time because you're renting that property. So we thought, okay, they put new peepholes because it was a brand new place. Well, it dawned on me that what had happened was the management had told, we assume, she said her nephews were the ones that did the drilling and everything. Well, they had checked our place out, obviously. We weren't home and found out that I had all that jewelry. And then they came back a few days later, got in, and then knew where my jewelry was, and they stole all our jewelry. Well, by the time we called the police, of course, that manager was gone and they were gone. So there was no getting it back. But it was very, very upsetting and very sad because these were gifts from my husband over 30 years of marriage, and somebody just came in and stole it for whatever, to sell for drug use or whatever their issue was. So that was bad. that was awful. Remember, that was awful. Okay, so then now everything's fine. We're living in Michigan. We're back with our two of our daughters, although we left the one in Ohio, and our friends. We were happy to be back. So in the meantime, now then we've decided that we're going to retire in Florida. So we moved to Florida, and again, now the good thing about moving, and I know even if you just move into the same state, it's scary. I mean, I know Andrew's a realtor, and people, you're afraid. First of all, you're doing something you're not familiar with, and even just moving into the same state, maybe in a different city, is a little frightening. But on the other side of the coin, it's an adventure. You are doing something refreshing, something new. You're going to meet new people. You're going to have new things happen. So if you can look at it that way too, everyone's going to be nervous. I get it. But we, for example, we decided we were going to retire in Florida. Now, did we want to leave our children again? No. But again, when you grow up like I have, and you realize no matter what you do, we are still connected with our children. Thank God for FaceTime. So I try to look at the positive. So of course we were excited to go to Florida, but again, we're leaving our friends and family. But on the other hand, when you move to Florida, your friends and family become closer because they want to, quotes, come and see you in Florida. So we, thank God, had people come and visit us, which we were happy about. We were there for 13 years. We lived in a community, very nice. We were the kind that got very involved. We belonged to all the committees. We did everything, met a lot of people. We got active, which you have to do if you want to meet people. And it was a great experience. I don't regret it at all. But now 13 years later, things have changed. A lot of our friends that we knew when we moved in now have either moved out, gone to assisted living, or they're in their 80s, or they have passed on. So we decided it's time for us to make a change. Now, our kids understand we aren't going to go back to Ohio or Michigan because at my age, I really don't want to do the winter thing. So we started looking at North Carolina, which is very pretty. And we found a place to move there. And so that's what we decided. Now, I know our three girls think we're whacked, and that's okay because they're going to think we're whacked anyway. So this will give them a reason. But I know it's not convenient for them because we're kind of at the foothills of the mountains. But that's okay because we have to do, which you learn as you get older, you have to do what you think you need to do. And yeah, point of this whole thing is when a person does something or a couple, you're doing what you want to do, but in the long run, it does affect family, friends, outcomes. So if you think, well, this is something that we're going to do, it's only going to affect us, it's not true because I know it affects our family. Just like when we moved to Ohio, that broke up our family. Our family was very close. It's still close. But like I said, we were used to doing things together, and then that tore that apart. But that's okay. It was supposed to happen. Now, I think we're happy. We've only been here a little over a month in North Carolina, but it's very pretty, and we're happy. We wanted to move. We love Florida. Don't misunderstand. We love Florida, but it's getting just too busy. And people at our age, we're ready just to kind of have something a little low key and not as much traffic and all that kind of thing. So that's why we moved here. So we'll see. I don't know how long we'll be here, but this probably will be the last move that we are going to do for ourselves. The next move will be the kids moving us somewhere. I don't know where that's going to be. But anyway, good part about moving. You get rid of stuff. You have new adventures. You meet a lot of people. I look back now on all the experiences that we had when we moved, some good, some not. The people that we met, even though, like I said, in Ohio, we never really in 5 years got to be good friends with people, but we did meet a lot of nice people. We had some good experiences. So if you need to try to look and grasp at the positive things. Also, this is it. We're not coming back. you go around once. So if you feel that you need to do something, big or small, don't be afraid. That's probably what my point is here. I mean, we could have said, "Oh, I don't know. I know the first time we had to move, but we could have said, because what would have happened was my husband would have had to go back to like his initial position, which he didn't want to do. But we could have stayed, but that wasn't what we were supposed to do. And it helped us to grow. So I think my words of wisdom on all this would be to not be afraid to venture out, whether it's moving or traveling, anything that you might be open to do, but you're a little afraid, you should go ahead and do it, because you don't want to grow old and look back and think, I never ventured out and did new things. And it's a good thing. But again, hey, if you're comfortable staying in your own little place that you've been all your life, that's fine too. That's good too. As long as you don't look back and regret it. Like I said, we're doing good. I don't regret moving, but and it's not an exciting thing, but I think all the different moves that we've made have helped us to also accept things as they are. Because when we had to move the first time, that's what we had to do. We had to say, okay, I mean, this is a path we're supposed to take, and we'll be okay about it. Had we not, we would have probably just stayed in Michigan. Maybe we would have retired in Florida, but I don't know. We would have moved anyway because we had a 4-bedroom house, and after all the kids left, we wouldn't need that. So we would have moved anyway. But I don't know what our path would have taken. It didn't take that route, so we did what we were supposed to do. So don't be afraid if there's something like that comes up.
Really good advice. I put a couple notes over here. The first thing that came to mind was when you talked about the quaint little town Ada. Some of my listeners, you may remember, I had a guest on here. My really good friend's son,
Mhm.
Tanner Locke,
Mhm.
ended up going to school. So that town, I don't know how my parents found it. My dad wasn't working in that exact town. They didn't want to live where he was in the city he was going to be working in. So it was more of an industrial type
Mhm.
city, Lima. And so they wanted to find like a cute little, I really love that town. It has like 2 stoplights or something.
Yeah.
And it has one college. Ohio Northern
Mhm.
University is there. So it's a college town. It's like you stop at the one stop sign, there's the college, stop at another stop sign, and you're already through it. So that's like the main part of the town. And I never would have dreamed that I would know somebody that would go there. So one of our previous guests, Tanner, talked about his experiences at Ohio Northern, which is in that same little town, which is
Yep.
just so
Very
interesting to me.
quaint, very nice little town. I wish I
Yeah.
would have now here's the thing too, had we been born there and raised there, it would have been wonderful. But to go from a metropolis kind of thing and then and leave everybody, that was the hard part. I really could have to say I didn't enjoy living there as much as I would have if I was raised there, because it is a nice little town, but again, you're the outsider. And your dad, the way he found it was he was driving along 75 going to work, because when we still lived in Michigan, he was commuting and he was going to work, and there was a sign up, and there was a house that was off the highway, and it was from a builder, and they were building these homes. And so my husband went and talked to the builder about it, and he called me. He said, I've got the perfect house. This is the exact house that you want. And this builder was building on this property in Ada. So that's how we ended up in Ada. Funny thing, actually, when we went to look at the property and decided on it, the builder said we had to go and meet the farmer and his wife who owned the property. Can you imagine doing that now? We had to go meet him so he could say yay or nay. I don't know if he would have been allowed to say nay. I don't think so. But he wanted to know, on the other side of the coin, he wanted to know who was moving in there. And
That's
of
so
course,
interesting.
yeah,
Well,
of
yeah, he
course.
loved you guys, of
Yeah,
course. So
so
yeah, actually, I mean, I think we say it, that's probably, I don't know, I loved the Florida house, but that I loved that house in Ada. It was
that's my favorite.
beautiful. I had that really pretty covered porch. It was
Mhm.
like the perfect farmhouse that many of us have probably dreamed of.
That was my favorite house. But here's another thing. I mean, of course, this was in 1999 we moved. So, but you go back there now and it's all built up. So, again, I don't know if we would still be there, because when we moved there, it was very rural. The pharmacy had the name of the pharmacist on the front door, and if you needed him in the night, you could call him and that. Well, now that's gone. He's retired. Well, I think he died already. But over the years, and now it's a CVS. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Van didn't
There's a
have.
Starbucks there
Yeah,
because
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So,
my older son that plays soccer played in Ada against Ohio Northern University this last fall, so we were there. And yeah, you drive through and it does look a little different than it did when
yeah.
you lived there.
And that's sad because I feel bad for the people who have been raised there because it has changed like everything else. So it is what it is. That's okay. But I don't know if we would still be there. But yeah, that was my favorite house. I loved it. And I loved
Yeah,
hanging out.
and oh, we did. We had a lot of really good times there. That's for sure. But yeah, you talked about fate and destiny, and I talk a lot on the show, which my mom and dad are a couple, like they have a lot of faith. That's been a big part of
Mhm,
their marriage as
mhm.
well. So I know that that doesn't take the place of faith, but I think, like you said, it's just different words for it. So we always used to say, you used to say this all the time, and now you're right. We don't necessarily agree with it anymore. But you used to say everything happens for a reason. When we were growing up, we would say that a lot. But I do respect what you're saying now that you don't necessarily agree with that. It's more fate or destiny, or I would say God's plan.
God's
So I
plan.
agree.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
understand the reason why Nathan has a
right.
progressive muscle wasting disorder. That does not make sense to me at all. But God's plan was to bring him to our family. I was
Yes.
supposed to be his mom, and we were supposed to learn the perspective that we've
Yes.
learned. So
Yes.
yeah, I appreciate how you were saying that because I really do agree, and I like how you were talking a lot about decisions and how they affect other things. So yeah, you can say, "Oh, what if we didn't, dad could have even quit the company and
Right.
just and decided to find another job. I want to stay in Michigan and I want to have a good job, so I'm
Mm.
going to just leave and find another job." But he didn't want to, and you guys did just say, "Okay, we're just going to go." And it made sense. I think anyone would probably take their 17, 18-year-old high school graduate with them to take care
Yeah.
of them. I mean, they're still pretty young at that time. But I mean, I think about all the things that my sister has done, and if she didn't go there, she might not
Mhm.
be in the same position. Yeah, we had her on the show, and she talked about that, as my mom mentioned, that first husband that didn't work out, and then she got married again and had two beautiful children. So
Mhm.
we always say if she didn't go to Ohio, if she didn't stay in Ohio, if she didn't meet that second husband, we wouldn't have my niece and nephew. So yeah, there's so many decisions that affect other things, or it's like dominoes. So yeah, it's very interesting how God says you were supposed to meet these people, you were supposed to
Mhm.
move there, you were supposed
Mhm.
to do these different things so that all of these pieces can fit together. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I
I
see,
mean,
I believe that's my philosophy too, that when, we're born, I'm one of those that says when you're born, your whole life is God has the plan for you, and I did wanna bring that up, I'm glad you did. So God had the plan that we were supposed to go there, and like you said, that shaped Tony's all the things she's done. She's very successful as a physical therapist, and the other thing too is when you have children and they grow up, they I don't think they're if they get a job opportunity, a good job opportunity somewhere else, they're not going to say I have to stay here with my mom and dad. They're going to have to take that job opportunity out of state or the country or wherever it is. So, we as parents need to understand that as well. We make decisions, and like this case, we moved. Well, we thought, you know what, if Ryan got a job opportunity somewhere else, whatever, you guys would have to go. And that's life. That's a good thing. That's growing up. That's nurturing. That's life. We don't always get to just sit home and have everything around us. I read one time, and this is just off the top of my head. For example, when we have a bad day in our lives, we say, oh my God, that yesterday was the most horrible day. This and that and the other thing happened. That is a normal life. Life isn't supposed to be this wonderful thing every day and the beautiful blue sky and everybody's healthy and my husband has a wonderful job and la, 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 la. That is the unique experience. So that instead of saying I had a bad day, you had a normal day. When you have the outstanding day, that's when you need to say something like, "Oh my God, I had the best day ever." That's unusual because life wasn't supposed to be like that.
you're right. And that's so funny. I was just watching this show. It's kind of a cheesy show, and everything is like, oh, everything's so perfect all the time. But the last episode I was watching, there was a couple on there, and the man was trying to make these grand gestures to show his love the whole time. And one of his friends pointed out, "Look at your significant other just playing cards with my significant other, and they're just laughing, having fun." That's the moment. Like,
Mhm.
that's the normal, like, you don't have to make these grand gestures or have these big things to show your
Right.
love. The
It's
little moments like that are the ones that happen every day are meaningful, and if you can find joy and love in that, that's
right.
where it is.
Right. Right. And you know what? I wish I could remember. I read that philosophy from somewhere, and I can't remember where it was that I read. Maybe I'll come across it sometime again.
Yeah,
But
no, I think that's great.
it made me think too, because that's what we say. We complain about the bad day we had. No, you had a normal day with things coming up that you couldn't handle or that you had to deal with, or so that's the norm. So I think that helps too.
You're making me think a lot about, obviously, I have 2 children. My older son is 20. It goes so fast, like, before I know it,
Mhm.
he's gonna be making his life decisions, like, where am I going next? Somebody was talking about redoing their son's bedroom the other day, and I'm like, before I
Okay.
know it, we're gonna be taking down the soccer
Mhm.
pictures and giving him all of his stuff to take to wherever he's moving to, because we're almost at that point, like, where he's gonna fly and do his own thing. And what if a job offer comes in that's in another state and he really
Mhm.
wants to move? Or what if he finds the love of his life and her family's from Wisconsin? You never know what the future is going to bring. And I think about that often. I try not to dwell on it, so I'll start crying.
Okay, Andrea. Keep saying it like I
But
do. It's okay.
it's
It's
okay.
okay.
But I don't think, and you said this, it's not a lack of want. He won't move or go somewhere else and want to be away from us. It won't necessarily be like,
Right.
yes, I'm finally gone. I don't think that. I think we have a very good relationship. So there will be opportunities where he'll want to come visit, or like you said, thank goodness for FaceTime, and we'll still have lots of ways to talk. But you made me think when you were talking about the Sunday dinners, and it's like, yeah, we all want to do those things.
Mhm.
And I have so many good memories about that. But you're right, other things come up, and sometimes you can't do the things that you could do when you were younger. And so if my son does move away and we want to have time together, we're just going to have to make different plans and eventually make it work. And it's not going to be as often as I would like, but when it happens, it'll be that much more special. So I do whine a lot because everybody left me, like, but at least I still live in the state where this new baby's going to be
Yes.
born. I'm very happy about that. But I just feel like, okay, both my sisters are in other states, my parents are in other states. We don't get together as often. I would like us to still have Sunday dinners, but it's just not feasible. And you're right, you have to accept it and just make the moments when you can. So,
But see, that helps a person grow by doing that, because we have to accept things that we don't really want, but it is life, and this is how life's supposed to be, and we learn acceptance and to deal with it, and that's okay. And like you said, that's a good example. Nick, who knows where he's going to end up? And you can't just be like, well, I don't, yeah, you would be sad. You don't want him to leave you. We didn't want to leave our family and friends when we moved to Ohio, but it was something we had felt we had to do. We didn't want to leave our family and friends when we moved to Florida, but we wanted to be in a tropical area, and we're not
right.
coming back. So
I know. Stop rubbing it in.
I mean, so we have to do what we want to do, in this lifetime, correct? So I think I remember, telling you girls too, we're not doing this to get away from you. Please understand that. You know that. We're not saying, some people do say, I got to get away from my kids.
Mhm.
I'm going to move. But
Right.
we did not, that's not why we moved. We either had to, or we had another reason or whatever. But, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Dealing,
For sure.
we still
For
love you
sure.
with all our heart. And, yeah, so it's good.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, go ahead. Change the subject.
That's a good thing. Okay. Um, okay. So now I just wanted to, another, of course, life-changing experience would be, of course, when Nathan was diagnosed. And I won't dwell a long time on that, because that's your story. However, to bring up a point, well, let me back up. I can still, I'll take this to my grave. I will never forget the phone call you made to me when you told me about him. Never. I can still hear, and I know you're going to start crying. And so
I know, because I remember it too.
the monotone, I mean, we were waiting for the test results and that. And when I answered the phone and it was your monotone, just spewing out to me the diagnosis, what the future brought, and all that. I can still hear your voice. I will never, ever, ever forget that. So, and I remember it took us 2 weeks, which I guess is pretty good you go through the whole thing, denial and acceptance and the grieving. And it's, just like, okay. So, and I have to say, it was the first time I ever saw your dad. I mean, sobbing that day and the whole night through, both of us just sobbing. And I know you can relate because I know you went through that and Ryan did too. Because, Nikki's told me she came to help you and Ryan was sobbing, which is normal. You just lose it all, break it down. My God, what's going to happen? How this is so awful. And then after, and I mean, I remember we were playing pickleball and we'd go play to try to keep things as normal as possible. You're still living. And people that we would be playing with would say, are you okay? What's wrong with you? We can just tell you're not. And I'd be like, I'm okay, but just awful. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it. Again, I don't say there's a reason that happened, but it was his destiny, his fate. And like you brought up a good point, he was destined to have a wonderful family to be born into. Just like, I mean, I know other people who have children with disabilities, but God bless that the Lord put them in that family. Okay, so that was the fate. That was what's supposed to happen. And I'm not one to say, why me? I've never said that. I've always said, why not me? What makes our family any better than somebody else's family that has a disabled child or father or mother, whatever the case is? We are no different. So why shouldn't this happen to our family? It's happened to other families. So that never came into me. Why me? I thought, well, why not me? It did happen. Okay. Then, of course, after a couple of weeks or whatever, then you just start realizing we're going to deal with this. It's going to be okay. And it has been very difficult. The point I want to make too is when you have something in your life like that, a tragedy, or even something good, it doesn't just affect, for example, you and Nick and Ryan. You have to remember it affects your whole family. We're there. But also to bring up a point, if you're a grandparent, you have now double worry because you don't just think about the child that's got the disability. Now I have to think about my daughter who's dealing with this, or in Ryan's case, Ryan's parents would think, my son is dealing with this. So you have the worry of how it's affecting your own child as well as the grandchild in this case, just using that example. So I remember thinking that, oh my God, I mean, and even now when I know Andrea is stressed out or Ryan, that's detrimental to my husband and me because this is our daughter dealing with this. And she's either on the verge of a nervous breakdown or having a real difficult time. So we have to worry about you as well. And I know, again, Ryan, same thing with him. So it affects the whole family. And your sisters are on board with you and will help in any way they can. And you and Ryan have everything under control. God bless you. And Nathan's very lucky. I don't know if he understands that yet. I don't think he does.
No.
I'm trying to be nice. He will one day realize,
Maybe.
thank the Lord. And it's not just you. I mean, there are everywhere people are dealing with health issues or Uh, God forbid, people that, I mean, young college students who get in car accidents and break their neck and are quadriplegics. I mean, they had a normal life. And so, I mean, that I think helps to know that there are so many other people even worse off. Not to say, of course, that we aren't upset about what happened, but it did happen. And everybody's dealing with it. Your house, you've got it all set up. And I came up with a new word, of course, Nathanized, which is another thing. Whenever we move now, we have to make sure that we are getting a house that Nathan can get into. So we have to make sure there's not a lot of steps and that we're on one floor, and that everything is Nathanized so that he can come.
Yeah,
So
or Stevenized as well. It's
Stevenized now, that's not my
dad
husband.
and my dad and Nathan, yes.
Good point. Yeah, we have to make it Stevenized as well. So, but I wanted to bring that up only because, of course, that my point of this was, yeah, I've had things in my life that have affected me myself, but also things that have happened in your life that as well affect your extended, your parents and your sisters and all that kind of thing. And I know you know that, but sometimes I think people think this is just happening to me and I have to deal with it or whatever. It's extended a lot of things. Just like when we moved, it wasn't. Yeah, we're like, okay, we're moving, but duh, we're leaving our kids and our friends, and it affected a lot of other people when we left. Because every time I would come to Michigan from Ohio, I had one friend and she'd get me off to the side and say, "Any news that you're moving back yet?" Every time I came to Michigan, and I'd say, "No, no, no." So things that we do in our lives can affect other people as well. We have to remember that too. So it's not just about you. But anyway, I wanted to bring that up. And we're dealing with Nathan, and it's okay because he's a strong fighter and he's going to be a senior and he's doing well. And I always tell him, God bless him, he is a statistic. He is going to be he's in books. His statistics in that are in doctors' books. People, probably professors, are dealing with this disease, talk about him, not saying his name, but what he's going through. He's going to be an example of a fighter and things that maybe are changing in his body. So he's on record more than I am.
That's true. Well, and he was in a medical trial, one of 16, so
Right,
that
exactly.
makes him
That's, yeah, I'm
historical,
glad you
yeah.
said that. I mean, I know that,
Yeah.
but that's the point. He's
Yeah.
he's on a trial, one of 16
Yep.
people. So all that information and stats and everything, and he's helping people down the road
Right.
who may have this disease or something similar. He is a part of that.
It's
That's more
true.
than I can say because when I leave this earth,
Yeah.
I'll be long forgotten for sure.
Same.
Not that I want him
Same.
to be a statistic because of what happened, but he is
Right.
doing some good through all
Yeah.
this. We have to look at it that way, and that's okay.
That'll be the title of this. That's okay.
That's
Um, yeah, I'm glad you brought all of that up. Yeah, I get emotional a little bit. I remember that phone call too, but that's the reason that I started the podcast was
great.
to share his story. And you also brought up another thing that I think about. I don't know if adversity was just dealt with differently back then when we were kids. I don't really remember hearing too much about things like this. I don't know if people were more private. I don't know what it was, but I don't remember dealing with a lot of things when I was young. And there were some people in our family. I had an aunt who had a neurological disease, ALS, but I was pretty young, so I didn't
Yeah.
fully understand everything that was happening with her. And then, you know, people died. I went to funerals, but it wasn't like someone really close to me until like later in life. I just didn't deal with that much. I had all four of my grandparents till I was in my 30s. A lot of people don't have things like that. They lose their grandparents when they're young, or they've lost their mom or dad, or a lot of other things have happened. So I it's terrible to say, but I used to think like, why does it happen to other families and not
Mhm.
our, like you said, we're not immune.
Mhm.
And I just used to think, when are we going to have to deal with adversity? Which is probably a terrible way to think, but boy,
Mhm.
did it rock all of our worlds. And you're right. It was like, I remember I always say you and dad have taught us to don't be a bother. help other people first, which can be so good on one hand, because I really love that I care so much about others. And that comes from what you guys have
Mhm.
taught me. But sometimes you put baby in the corner, sometimes you do have to say, wait,
Mhm.
I need to handle something for me. And so I think Nathan has taught us that when we
Mhm.
go to a restaurant, people need to move out of our way.
Right.
When we are traveling, we need to get on the plane first. And that's not typical of like the way that you and dad thought or the way that you and dad brought us up. So I think that was a lesson for all of us. Like, no, even dad now dealing with physical things, he's not too good at it, but he's getting better at being like, I need help, or put
Mhm.
me on first, or let me go ahead of other people. I think that's a huge life lesson. And Nathan has taught us that. Like, it's okay to say, wait a minute, we need help.
I
We
agree.
need
I
something.
agree. Yeah, good
Yeah.
points to bring up for sure. And like to get back at what you were saying, things really didn't happen. I mean, we had our aunt that died, of course, but we just lived our lives and everything was regular, I guess,
Yeah.
quote,
Yeah.
normal. And then you don't, like you said, you don't think about anything like this happening. You see it around you. So then when it did hit close to home, it was a shock. But again, I think we taught you as well, all our girls, which we tried to teach you, to deal with things. You can't just bury your head in the sand. This happened. So now you have to deal with it. Just like, I mean, as little as it is when we had to move. Okay, we didn't want to move, but okay, we dealt with it. And that's a good life lesson, because things do come up throughout your whole life. And you can either bury your head in the sand and say, I don't want to deal with that, or you can take it on and do the best you can and deal with it, which is what life's all about, if you ask me. Because let's face it, a lot of different things happen all the time, and they'll continue to happen. And even when you're older, they happen. And you have to, it's okay. You have to deal with it. And you do, one way or another. Might not be the right thing, but yeah. So everybody's dealing with Nathan. He deals with us.
Yeah, he deals with us, that's for sure.
Another point, it made him what he is, as far as it doesn't matter what your disability, you have to go with your other senses or whatever. And he's very good at talking, as we know. And now, thank God, he got involved with the announcing at school, and that's the path that he was supposed to take.
Hmm.
And he's gone with that, thanks to you, Andrea, pushing him.
Oh, yeah, that was quite a push.
Yeah. So but that, thank God, there's other venues, maybe is what I want to say, when no matter what you do, whether it's a disability or you choose one job over another, you have to deal with that and use your skills and use whatever you can to make that certain thing happen. And that's what he's doing, which is a very positive thing. So,
Yeah, I love that. Well, yeah, I do like to say that we stay within an hour. But I obviously, like I said at the very beginning, you and I could talk all day, and we've missed many a sign because we've been talking while driving or whatever. But so I love that about us, and I hope that never changes. But everything you brought up, I mean, it's the reason why I'm doing the podcast.
mhm.
So you talked about people having paths, having a plan for their life. I strongly believe that. I used to pray, especially after I got Nathan's diagnosis. My prayer was always, God, show me the way. What am I supposed to be
Mhm.
doing? How am I supposed to be dealing with this? What am I supposed to be doing for my job? If I'm a caregiver, what does that look like? Show me the way. Show me the way. I always said that. So when I decided to do this podcast, I thought that was the perfect title for it. Sometimes I believe we need to take a step in our direction ourselves. We can't rely on God to show us everything. Sometimes we have to figure some things out. But I do believe there's a path and a plan. And I do feel like when I steer away from that is when I have the most problems or when I have the most worries. So when you trust that God has a plan and you know that you're not in control and things are going to
Mhm.
happen in your lives that change other
Mhm.
people's lives, and you have to follow that plan. You have to have faith in it. And I think everything you talked about really leads back to that. So I knew that's why, like I said, it could be the Mom and Andrea show because you were spot on with everything you said. You have really good perspective, and I really liked how you shared all of that.
But I think one more thing too, I think and you brought it up, when we make decisions in life, what to do, whether to take this job or whether to move to this place or the other. But I believe, why are you making those choices? The choice that you did, instead of moving here or moving there, you choose to move there. Well, why? Because God wants you to take that path. That's your destiny or your fate, what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go here at this time. Otherwise, you would have chose the other path.
Yeah, true. That's a
So
good point.
you're still, even though you think you're making that decision on your own, somebody in here is helping
Yeah.
you. They're up from
Yeah,
above.
when you think you're in control, you're not. That's when I'm the most stressed. Like when you think you have it all figured out, you really don't, and you need to step back and remind yourself that there is a greater power. So I strongly believe in that. But yeah, everything you said, spot on.
You're always
Just
learning. I mean, as old as I am, I mean, I know I've still got hopefully a few years left, but I'm going to meet new people. I'm going to have new adventures. I'm going to learn from experiences and from people. Don't be afraid. Go out there. It's a whole new world, and there's not going to be a second chance. This is it. You don't do it now, this is your chance. Go live your life.
right. Yeah, today, not tomorrow. That's what I always
There you
say.
go.
And
You're right.
also you said too that you keep saying that's okay, but you said we figure things out, and that's another term we often use on the show, that everything's figure outable, and it is.
It
So
is. It is. We deal with that. We figure it out. May take a little bit of time, or we have to figure another way to do something, but it gets figured out one way or another, which is good. Keeps your mind going.
yeah, that's true.
You don't want to be stagnant. That's another thing I think too, with if you don't move or whatever. I'm not telling people to move, but even though you're a realtor, you
Yeah,
can
keep telling
become
people to move.
stagnant. And I think a lot of times I think people feel that way even in their job. If they've been there a long time, they want to venture out and do something else or whatever, for whatever reason. But you don't want to be stagnant either. You're always able to do something new if you want to. You don't, that's okay too. It's
Yeah,
okay.
it is okay, but yeah, I think the main lesson is, yeah, don't be afraid, and
Right.
tomorrow's not promised, so
There you go.
why not? And unfortunately, we don't really learn that till we get older. We think we
Yeah,
have all the time in the world when we're younger, but I think it's really good advice. And yeah, as a realtor, I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. They're very afraid. It's a huge financial decision, but sometimes you just got to go for it and see what happens, and trust and have faith in yourself and in God who is in control. So,
that's right. And it'll all work
yeah.
out. Because I know we look back too, every time we moved, of course, it would be like, can we afford it? Oh, I don't know if we should do this. And then we'd finally just say, you know what, let's do it. And it always worked out.
Yeah, and you make it work. You make
You
it
make it
work.
work.
Just like when I decided to become a realtor and quit a corporate job, that changed everything, but you just figure it out somehow. You make it work,
Exactly.
especially if you've got a good partnership and you're both on the same page or close to the same page.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, this has been great conversation. I know my mom was like, "Oh, you just calling me out to be on the show because you don't have anybody else," but it's not true. As I said at the very beginning, my sisters and I commented how well my mom spoke and the great advice and perspective she had the last time she was on. So I've been wanting to have her on again. She was in Michigan visiting us recently, and it would have been great to do it while she was here, but that's the great thing about, like we said, FaceTime and virtual platforms like this. We can meet and we can talk, and I was just really glad she was available this morning. So thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing all of that. It is funny when people say, what would I talk about? There's always something to talk about. We've all been through experiences and we all have a story. Sometimes they're really big stories, sometimes they're huge challenges, or sometimes there's a lot of challenges along the way, and we can just start talking about them and share what we've learned through that experience. Oh, she has one more? One more idea. Go ahead.
I'm thinking about, all right, I talked about moving and I did have something bad happen, my jewelry being stolen. But the point I wanted to make at that time was it made me realize it was just jewelry. And since then, I've never bought expensive jewelry because it all got taken away in a minute. All was stolen from me. And that was a lesson for me not to value something that's monetary like that. I mean, it was beautiful. I loved it, but it was just jewelry. So I did want to bring that up, and I forgot to at the time I was talking about that.
Not that things can't hold value for you, sentimental or whatever. I know you said it was important because my dad bought those things for you. I
Mhm.
get that. I have things,
Yeah.
but I think about it a lot. Sometimes you look at all the stuff you've got in your house,
Yeah.
and I think if I died tomorrow, like I hope Ryan would just throw all that stuff in the
Yeah.
garbage because it really doesn't mean anything. Maybe one or two things that would remind you of the person, but in general it's all stuff, and you've learned a lot about that with all of your moves too because you've had to let go of a lot
Yeah.
of things and you can't take it with you. It's like it is what it is. It's just material. There's a lot of things that are more important than that. That's for
Right.
sure.
And so out of that bad thing that happened, I learned a lesson. Would I still want to have it? Of course. That was sentimental to me, like you said. And these people just went and pawned it somewhere, and I wanted you girls to have some of that jewelry. But again, we were alive, and it's jewelry, and that's okay. I learned a lesson.
But yeah, I mean, again, what we've been saying this whole time,
Mhm.
everything that we go through does teach us a lesson, does give us more perspective. And back to my point that everybody has perspective to share. Every single person. As I keep telling people, like, just be on. It's a casual conversation. It's just the two of us chatting, and it's just you talking about your perspective because everybody has it from one reason or another. And it like I said, it can be my child went through a diagnosis, or it could be that I had to move to Italy, like we had one of our guests for my husband's job. So there's all kinds of different moments in time and decisions that we make, things that we learn. And I really love being able to share it with other people because anyone that listens today is going to learn from you and they're going to take that hopefully and remember a couple of the things you said when they're making a tough decision or when they're saying, I'm really nervous about doing this. Sometimes you just got to do it. So thanks for, sometimes you just got to be a guest. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Annie.
Of course. Thank you for joining me for the Show Me the Way podcast. I truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. I hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If this episode touched your heart, don't forget to leave a quick review as it will help us reach and motivate more people. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.